Excursus 8, Actors and Characters, quoting J. Roth's Die Flucht ohne Ende, 1927. That is in fact a fancy dress ball and not reality. You can't get out of your costumes. The proletarian revolutionary movement, which was organising itself anew after the war, was disturbed by the ironic metamorphoses of the bourgeoisie. In bourgeois culture, atmospherically omnipresent, the ascent of the theatrical type predicted by Nietzsche had come about. And just as at the time of its militant rise against feudalism, when the bourgeoisie had set its steadfast morality against aristocratic cynicisms, the leaders of the revolutionary movement now recreated the antithesis of character and actor. In his essay Die kulturelle Stellung des Schauspielers, The Cultural Position of the Actor, 1919, Ludwig Rübener, one of the heralds of expressionist activism, confirms the bourgeois success of actors as an occupational group. The bourgeois contempt for this profession ceased, but not just contempt. Today it is the quote-unquote struggling classes who continue to view the actor with quote-unquote instinctive deprecation. In this there is something worse than contempt, namely mistrust of the actor. Quoting De Dicta Grieft in die Politik, the poet intervenes in politics, Leipzig, 1976, pages 318 to 19. Mistrust of his reliability, his character, of the assessment of the actor as a companion and fellow fighter. For today there is no longer any evasion. You either belong to the reaction or the revolution. The point is to make a decision. The actor has not yet decided. According to Rübener, actors are not much more than, quote, badly or well-fed circus animals, end quote, of the bourgeoisie, agents of planned diversion from real struggles. They are capons, entertainment slaves, fools prostituting themselves, doomed to, quote, existence as Untermenschen, end quote, because of their ambivalent position in bourgeois culture. On them falls the suspicion of being asocial, an unbearable suspicion in the eyes of those who speak the language of the quote-unquote coming humanity. Rübener damns the bourgeois actor by basing himself on a new sociality that looks into the future, the new community, the new humanity. The actor who would cease to merely be a quote-unquote hunter of roles would have to decide in favour of this new humanity, and in doing so would again become a full fellow human and character. Rübener's slogan was, quoting page 323, "Character is again worth something." In the new society, actors as we know them would disappear, and in their place would appear the intellectually distinguished dilettante, the speaker with whose emergence the, quote, epoch of the prostitution of the actor, end quote, would end. Rübener's text reads like a document for the new socialist moralism whose heyday was in the feverish months after the fall of Wilhelminian rule, and the young Russian Revolution close on its heels. It is superfluous to comment on Rübener's text. Events themselves have taken over this task and have shown that the socio-psychological trend did not make actors into characters once again, but made more and more characters into actors. However, from the millions of little stories that have been spun together into a big story, I want to cite one related to Gustav Regler. It provides an atmospheric snapshot from the milieu of prominent Berlin communists, who at the time still believed that with mere rhetoric they could resist the victory march of the fascists. The date is January 28th, 1933, 2 days before the fateful day. This quote from pages 189 and 90 of Das Ohr des Malchus, Frankfurt, 1975. And it's long. January 28th, 1933 was a final grotesque day in Berlin. Kantorowicz cooked up his stiff goo of oats as I sought him out to look for the mail. I found an invitation to Green Week, the farmers' exhibition. Ask de Wald, said Kantorowicz. He was here yesterday. De Wald, an unemployed actor, walked out of the kitchen, puffed up his cheeks, stuck out his stomach and jammed a monocle into his eye. "Oh, quite excellent show," he teased. "Beast becomes impudent, produces too many vegetables too, eats less bread. Soon it will be otherwise. 14 years of Marxism have passed, haven't they?" De Wald no longer spoke like a Junker from East Prussia. He imitated Hitler's voice. Kantorowicz stirred his porridge, which he consumed every morning as a cure for the previous night's poisoning by cigarettes. De Wald pushed a strand of hair onto his forehead. "I haven't waited long enough," he cried. "I will be Chancellor before the bow tie under his nose. My strand of hair will enchant all Germans. The bags under my eyes will become the new ideal of beauty. The Social Democratic Party will crawl into its mouse hole. The Communist Party will distribute a printed protest door to door." "Hey," said Kantorowicz, and looked somewhat concernedly at the jester who, with all his mockery, took on the shine of a visionary. "I will not stand for any back talk," De Wald screamed into the monotonous but nevertheless hysterical tone of the Führer. "There is no proletariat. I will send it to Moscow. There is only the German people, and they will follow me into the deepest misery because they are loyal and recognize their Führer and like being kicked in the behind. This Schleicher, who has been at the helm now for 1 month and 24 days, but it belongs to me. I will put a stop to his cheating, and before the week is out, there will be one general less and a great Führer in Wilhelmstrasse. So help me my bow tie and my shock of hair." The telephone rang. Kantorowicz lifted the receiver, listened with his raven's face at first as if he were asleep, tapped with his fingers, and then he wrinkled his forehead, nodded several times and hung up. His face seemed to have grown older as he said, looking up at De Wald, "Schleicher has resigned. Hitler will become Chancellor." De Wald hastily pushed the strand of hair from his forehead. He looked as if he was scared that we would beat him to death.